Good evening. It is August 1st. Happy August 2024. This is a Thursday. This is the day after FOMC, which was anticipated, but we had minimal expectations. So this was yesterday. Very important there. We do have some data coming out today, 5:30 to 6:45, and then at 7 o'clock, as we were aware. This would be medium to high importance. We also have earnings before the bell and after the bell, primarily looking at the Amazon, Apple, and Intel. These other few here are pretty important as well. I will look at the sectors a little later on. All right, so we know we have data coming out at 5:30 to 6:45 and then at 7 o'clock. Just a quick recap of where we are coming from. This was the extremely bullish overnight action. The close of Tuesday, we had our massive drift up in the morning. Overnight. Opened up. This is pre-FOMC, of course. Opened up, we had some earnings in the morning. Ended up trading. Couldn't trade lower. Used 7 a.m. data to kind of help push upwards, push through that consolidation. Continuing the uptrend. And we pretty much balanced trade. Test the downside before the FOMC release. And it was pretty muted for the most part. We shot up, we shot back down, ended up being balanced, but still closed higher after it was all said and done. All this traded above the prior IB high. So, massive overnight rally that was broken through the prior day's DGPs and broke highs of the prior consolidation ranges. Big gap up, open test drive, and held above the IB high with data and FOMC, which is pretty bullish. We end up with this massive engulfing candle. Same situation on the NASDAQ. So everyone is quite bullish. Even in our homework, we had to respect what the bulls were doing. But we made sure that we paid attention to the bear case as well, given the taking advantage of this here and the strength the bears have been showing, which has been new behavior over this past year. So we were overall bullish, extremely bullish, but still respecting the downtrend that we're in. That happened on high volume, with data and without data. This has been pretty sustained. I digress. So we closed very bullish above the IB highs. We ended up balancing at first above the VWAP, able to poke above the prior day's high. Ended up shooting lower. I'm unsure. It could have been some news or something. Who knows? There's been all kind of catalysts going on in different areas. We couldn't hold the range. Ended up breaking that low. Found some support within this consolidated FOMC range, and we bounced up to a somewhat lower balance, but in the middle of the overnight range. About the same situation for the NASDAQ. Traded a little higher, broke the settle, and then they closed near the end of their overnight range. So ideally, NASDAQ may be a little weaker overnight. All this is in hindsight for myself. We're about 5 minutes in. I'm unsure how everything looked in the beginning of the day as far as the sectors. So I had to use some of my hindsight in this situation, but I would imagine people were somewhat decent. I'm curious who was weak. This is why it's important to not miss any days. I had to pick up some family members. I digress. So we are an overnight. We are a little weaker on the NQ, a little stronger on their S&P 500. So we open test drive. Don't forget we have the 745 data. Looking at the S&P 500. This is the RTH. End up having an open test drive. This range is about 22 points. 24 points for this first 30 minutes. Open drive kind of behavior after a little small gap up and opening in the middle of that overnight range. Have a possible like open drive, small pullback, and we hold pretty strong, closing above the IB mid for this first bracket. It's pretty simple. Nice push up, not much down, all of the range and this initial balance is to the upside. 7 a.m. data drops. We have this weird looking candle. I'm not sure what this is called, but the next candle is definitely interesting. Pure engulfing. Closing at that low. Closing above the open, which is very near the low of the day, the low of the session. Which, if this same behavior happened on the Nasdaq, I would imagine this would be even scarier. So we're about right there, about still in the middle of that range because that's where we opened. You getting ready to come in here? All right, and we close above this open here. This second candle, we ended up piercing through this low, which broke the RTH open and the IB low break, but we ended up holding above, which is interesting. So in real time, I'm curious how this felt. Just bear with me. Figured, yeah, definitely some attempts on the seller side. Looks like that was like 500 lots. I'm curious how the rest of this looked. But after this down spike with this doji, had another engulfing candle here. It's a very interesting bracket again. The buyers definitely tried. Oh, something in my eye. Yeah, it's just interesting. I'm curious how this looked in real time. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward how the day went. Once we got below these DGPs here, we broke below this open. We couldn't get back above the IB high. Definitely tried, got rejected pretty hard, and just continually made new lows with each bar for the next hour, basically, and then some every 15 minutes or so. Pretty straightforward trend day down. Not really too much to talk about. I'm just seeing if we're missing anything here. It's completely pierced through yesterday's DGPs for the RTH. But again, the majority of yesterday was this overnight session. Yeah, it's this whole area. So they gave up all that, which was fake in the first place. This is something that we'll need to look at the market profile for a little better information, which we'll look at shortly. And then we had the NASDAQ again. This is the same situation. This is what I was talking about. I would imagine the trade would have made a little better sense here as we opened near the bottom of that range. Shoot up the same way. Made a lower high, and the S&P 500 made a higher high and immediately failed. Yeah, they poked through and couldn't get back above. No kind of wick to the upside, all to the downside. And for tech, same situation except they made their lower high. They had their SOC. Same engulfing. They tried to coil. Not as weak as the S&P 500 now that I look at these back to back, or compare these rather, because they had their SOC second candle, they're right at their open. It's consecutive. The subsequent candles, they traded below their IB low, and the NASDAQ did not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It took them 6 candles, and then even when they did get down there, they fought their asses back, but got rejected still to close the B bracket. So ideally, they would be the stronger ones. Again, I'm looking at this in hindsight, but that makes sense if you're being objective at the time. So the NQ had better structure to trade. You had to be patient for them to get down there. But once they did get there and broke that level, it was no kind of competition to get back above, which is this area. And about time they close that B bracket, whereas the S&P 500, S&P 500 is just getting whooped. They're already back at their prior IB high. But you would imagine this may be a situation for like a pullback. So I would imagine you could see maybe a long as they're headed into support while the NQ is holding strong. It's kind of something to think about. But given this lower high for the NQ and the fell, the look above and fell, it's just a pretty bearish sign in general. It's basic price action, if you will. Look a little deeper, you can see what happened with the sectors. So they are down 140 basis points. With the worst performers being technology, energy, which we've been seeing, consumer discretionary, which should be Amazon, Tesla, Home Depot, McDonald's, Starbucks, Nike, Chipotle. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're just doing bad across the board. So we were able to somewhat sustain due to consumer staples, which is Procter and Gamble, Costco's, Walmart. Okay, so that's like retail, I guess. So consumer staples, healthcare, which we know, real estate, which who's been doing well for the most part, and utilities, who's been kind of breaking out just in general. So just a quick reminder for the 5-day. Yeah, today was bad, but it was somewhat sustained given the breadth across the board. Communications is still leading due to Meta. That's why they were only up 40 basis points, but they're probably getting carried by Meta. Yeah, they're up 4.5%. So interesting finish for the day. So looking on a 5-day, I think it's important that we just keep an eye on technology, which is going to be Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft. Google and Meta, they're for communications. Tesla and Amazon is for discretionary, right? Yeah. So technology, you have to be careful with Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple. But if everyone else is pulling their weight, it's fine. And utilities are still leading with them breaking out, which is nice weighted on the S&P 500. So yeah, definitely a big sell-off kind of day. I'm curious what the NYSE tick look like. I don't have it set up on my computer, but I'm curious how the up versus down stocks went for today. But other than that, I really think that's about it. A quick time check. We're at 16 minutes. Doing a quick look at the market profile. Actually, I want to take a look at this weekly candle. Oh wow, that's crazy, man. We were just up here earlier, and now this shit is completely reversed again. And we broke that low, which was not the case yesterday. So that's kind of important to know. NQ's already headed down, broke that level of support there. Just taking a quick look at this market profile. I've been saying the same shit recently, which is building volume in this contract premium zone, which is the case. This is where the VPOC was today. But we're getting rejected from here. We're trying to trade our way back up into this zone. Just ate up these singles at that expense. But buyers definitely need to get above this zone, because as of right now, we're trading old prices from the prior contract, which just sounds bad. You wouldn't want to buy something and then a quarter later it's still worth the same price, if not less. Just not a good look. Shape of the day, it's more on the B side, but definitely multi-distributed. I mean, we have some singles here, but I mean, to be honest, I really don't feel like these are worth to do. But I shall do them anyways. Just make a quick note for these. It's August 1st. I mean, that's really it. A lot of high volume shells. This is what I've been saying the past couple of days. This definitely wasn't the case on our way up to all-time highs. Support was not breaking like this. I mean, the buyers are putting up a fight and they're still getting smacked down. And it's really not good that they're below this high volume node zone here. I actually need to change this to a different color, give it different importance. Yeah, it's messing up my colors because these other ones. Okay, that works. Put these singles back on. Alright, we'll call it done here. So really not too much to say, just more of the same. We're basically just balancing just with ranges and volume I've never seen. Yeah, this shit is interesting. But yeah, really not too much to talk about. We're just in the same position we were on Tuesday, except we have a lot of buyers that are potentially stuck. And I remember we looked at the footprint the other day. It's like a bunch of sellers up in here. So we were able to kind of get ahead, maybe stop them out. And then new money shorts were able to enter the market, and then some liquidation as a whole. So yeah, this is really not good for buyers. Just a lot of volume trapped up here, a lot of time spent up here, and then we liquidate lower for the whole day. It's gonna be interesting. Just gonna put these together for that another composite. Notice that same zone, this VPOC, we're kind of slipping through, going back and forth. This is like the halfway mark. So, I mean, whoever wins this zone here is going to be most important. So, below this zone, advantage is on the shorts. Above it is advantage on the buyer side, which should be pretty much the same case for the Nasdaq. Um, you know what? Let me not complain. Let me just do it. The time it takes for me to say I don't want to do it, that could be done. Alright, we got singles here. And there. And I think that's about it. I'm not going to do that little bit or the one at the bottom. Maybe this. Alright, nice. Same situation here, except this is even worse in my opinion. This high volume node here, and then this big zone that we're looking at. The only advantage that they have is that we have a lot of singles up here. If we can bust through these singles, we'll be above this LIS zone. And then we just have a lot of singles to work with. It's just going to take a lot of effort to get up. We have the non-farm payrolls tomorrow, which is another highlight of this week. And then some more 7 a.m. data, including more of the 5:30. Next week is a lot lighter. So any work, any kind of advantage is going to need to be done today or Friday, that is. It's just a lot less catalyst for the upcoming week. Switch this back to the daily, switch this back to the daily. Let me save this. I'll fix the orientation later. People getting stopped out. So we got a good understanding of how the day went. About 24 minutes in. This is about how long the videos have been lasting. We did fill that gap. Rejected. Again, this is some of the most volume I've seen. We're having these huge down days on massive volume, which I would imagine, which means we're going to have more downside excursion as we're looking for price discovery. On high volume, I mean, it's pretty textbook. Looks like we have some sellers that are in profit. We have some buyers that may be underwater. Some buyers that are trying here, and we're still pushing lower. Definitely sellers are still stepping in. They're trying. VPOC is up here with some buyers. Same situation. Even if you look at the delta by price, just a lot of buyers in this zone. That's about 70 points from 530s to the 470s. Yeah, so I'm not really sure how this upcoming session may go. So, I mean, really, just to end on that note, go through my questions. I'm pulling up Notion on my other screen. Previous session is Thursday. Where's the market coming from? As we already discussed, this massive overnight rally to the solid hold, to the drifting sideways, hoping that we can hold above this zone. Oh wow, it tested this shit pretty much exactly. That's crazy. I tested that close of this 23rd of July 23rd and just found rejection. So we came from these highs, hoping to trade above, and just got rejected. So it's definitely important. What did the market try to accomplish today? As we discussed, we wanted to be able to hold within these zones, and they failed miserably. Broke through all of them, and only a couple of hours into the night, we've already broken the damn low. It's for sure possible that we may spring back up, but this is just a poor showing from the buyers. And again, this is on high volume. It's not like it's on low volume, and we're just kind of teetering back and forth. This is a lot of commitment on both sides. And the buyers are just losing this tug of war, this arm wrestling contest. Same situation with the NASDAQ. If anything, this is even worse for the buyers. The fact that sellers are selling at these highs. And they're quite aggressive with it too. Even the delta is still positive. They finish the day with more buyers and sellers, and they're still underwater. And they're starting out the session underwater. So the advantage definitely is on the bear side. So they failed what they tried to accomplish. We're coming from a very key area. It was a good pass. It was a good opportunity that they took care of for just that RTH session, but they just gave up. Is there any surprises in the market today? Just a lack of support. I mean, they just completely shredded through these levels. And again, it's not like this was done on light volume. This was, I mean, you can look at this here. This is extremely forceful. I mean, Jesus. This is the overnight session. This is 2,500 lots on one order. And they got nowhere with it. So not only do you have people who are smacking this down forcefully and they're following through and they're stopping these people out, you have people that are sitting here absorbing in a sneaky, passive fashion, forcing this down. There's no follow through with this buyer. People saw that and they just stopped. So, I mean, this is all important information. So, if anything, I'm more surprised with the attempt and the aggressiveness from the sellers. How did the market finish? At the lows, bear flagging. Even with, I don't know how the earnings went for Amazon, Intel, and Apple, but if we hide, I mean, all this was muted for the most part. Earnings was somewhere in here. Just absolutely just disregard for it. I mean, yeah, we got marked down for a little bit for 20 points. But I mean, that's really it. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be an interesting day. Pretty much gonna leave it at that. What time are we at now? It should be about 30. Yep, 29, 30 seconds. So I'll leave it here. Again, I don't have any theories, projections, or guesses, predictions where the market may go. But as we mentioned yesterday, it looked extremely bullish, but there was a lot of underlying data that pointed to the downside given the intermediate action we've been seeing. and the little hints that the market is providing with the MGI. So we just wait. We're getting extremely close to this area down here for the NQ, and not so much for the S&P 500. So we go where tech goes. So we'll just have to keep an eye on all this. We have non-farm payrolls tomorrow that can take us to all-time highs or back to hell, depending on the data. So we'll know more tomorrow. We'll have a better idea of what we're looking at the end of this week, and then we can do our prep over the weekend. Next week should be a bit more quiet, so we'll have time for things to digest. But all right, I'll cut it short here.